Hey guys, people want to know what are the strategies that I use to make my first $1 million, right? How did I go from having nothing to driving one of these? Here's the thing, man. I want to give you guys a couple of pointers here, a couple of tips. So, a lot of people think the problem is that everybody tries to really overcomplicate everything, okay? And the biggest thing that I found, the error that a lot of entrepreneurs make when they're trying to start out in the beginning and they're trying to make a bunch of money, the thing that they do is they start dabbling in everything. They start getting involved with so many different projects and so many different things that they become so dispersed. They're making a little bit of money here, a little bit of money over there, and they're not focused on one big thing. An idea that you gotta have is this, that the bigger the problem that you solve, the more money you're gonna make, right? If you solved a really big, juicy problem in today's environment, if you found the cure for something, or you solve a problem like, that people are having every single day, whatever that problem is, right? If you solve that problem, there's gonna be a huge demand for what it is that you're selling, right? Because everybody wants to solve a problem. That's the first thing you got to think about. How do I get a bunch of different side hustles? But rather, how can I find one thing that I'm passionate about, one thing, and do that one thing better than anybody else? That's what you really got to focus on, because when you don't do that, you become just so sidetracked, right? And I'll give you myself. So my story is, look, I started a sleep testing company in my kitchen about 12 years ago with one product. I had one vertical. That was it, one product, one service. And literally the idea was that I wanted to do that product and service better than anybody else on the planet, okay? And I wanted to build the largest home medical sleep testing company on the planet. That was my goal. It wasn't that I wanted to do 100 different things. It was simply that I wanted to focus on doing this one thing better than anybody else. Okay, that's really what I wanted to focus on. When I started, man, it was humble beginnings. Like, I was literally doing a couple of tests a week, okay? And I was in 2 counties, maybe 3 counties, and I was out there calling on doctors' offices, and I was doing all this stuff, right? And when I looked around me, I had a lot of people doing other things, and they were making a lot of money, right? I had friends that were traveling and making a bunch of money doing stuff, and here I was kind of just plugging away at this one thing, and I wasn't making a ton of money. I wasn't making a lot of money. 2012, 13, 14, 15, wasn't making any money. 2015, I had $78 in the bank, so I had literally no money. I was making $800-900 a week at that time. For me, what kept me going was that I knew eventually things would turn, because what I was doing was I was building this monster. I was building this infrastructure that eventually was going to wake up, right? Eventually I knew that this thing that I was doing was going to boom. It just took time, and it took a lot of hustle, and it took a lot of patience, right? But, because I was focused on doing this one thing, everybody else during the time they were doing all this other stuff, and I had friends that were, in the network marketing game, and they were doing this, and they were doing that, and all this other type of jazz. But I was just like, look, man, I want to build Blackstone into the largest, sleep testing company in the world, right? That was my deal. And I just stayed focused. I stayed committed. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this one thing. Despite all of the bull bait, as I call it, where I saw my friends traveling, doing well. They were doing this other network marketing thing on the weekends, and they were doing all this other type of jazz. And they were making good money, and here I was plugging away, sleep testing, plugging away, this one thing. And then eventually, it started to pop. And if you look at Bill Gates, you look at Steve Jobs, you look at Elon, you look at all these people, they always did one thing first. They did one thing to create an enormous amount of wealth, cash machine. And then at that point, diversifying is easy at that point. But even Warren Buffett talks about, don't diversify in the beginning. You want to do one thing, you want to do it better than anybody else on the planet. Look at the sports players. You look at guys like, A-Rod that took, baseball, went into real estate. Well, he had to make his money first in baseball, and then he parlayed that into other things, right? You got to think with this more of a singular approach. This whole get rich thing overnight doesn't work. It takes time, and it takes patience, and you got to work at it. And there's going to be days that suck, and there's going to be days that are good, and there's going to be days that are horrible. But you're gonna have to persist through it all, okay? Even me, man, even to this day, man, I'm pushing, grinding Like, my days start at 6 a.m., man, and they don't end till, 10 p.m. at night. I have my own set of challenges. I have my own setbacks. I have my own things that I deal with. They're at new levels, but, hey, the saying is there's a devil at every level. So you got to really think with, number one, persevering. Number two is really should be number one is you gotta focus on one thing. Don't get distracted focusing on 10 things. Learn from the greats. Learn from the people that have built enormous amounts of wealth. They did one thing over and over and over again until they were the best at it in the world. Then you have your calling card, right? At that point, you can do and say whatever you want, because you've created an immense amount of power. So I hope this video helps. Again, this was the one thing that I recommend that I did that helped me make my first million, okay? The first million is the hardest million to make. Then making 5 to 10 is just a little bit tougher. But then after 10, it's just, but that first million is tough because you gotta stay consistent. You gotta find one thing. You gotta do it better than anybody else in your city, state, country, planet, whatever, and don't start diversifying until you have mastered that one thing. So I hope this video helps. Welcome to my channel. If you like this video or you think somebody would benefit from this video, please share, please like, subscribe, please comment below if there's any other videos that you want me to talk about in terms of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship lifestyle. So again, hope that helped, guys. God bless.